Monitor lizards, they're the next level into reptile keeping, going from geckos that seem to have only 2 brain cells bopping around in their brain to going to something that is going to be fully cognitive, intelligent, and even able to recognize their owner. It is just going to bring things to a whole new level. However, monitor lizards differ in a lot of different ways, and we're not talking about just the coloration and size, but also the temperament, the personality, the ability to socialize and habituate these animals. There are a bunch of different variables surrounding a bunch of different of these species. It's a good thing that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. The top 5 best monitor lizards for pets. These are going to be animals that are going to vary in a lot of different coloration and sizes, but all have one common denominator, and that's going to be they're going to tame down a lot better as pets, comparatively speaking, to other species. And as always, folks, I'm Dakota, that's a bearded dragon, and you're watching Monitor Lizards That Make Good Boys. Stick around. Get into a species that unanimously seems to be the best starter monitor lizard pet, kind of an introduction into the monitor lizard personality and the intelligence behind them. And that animal is going to be number 5, the Ackie Monitor. Otherwise known as the spiny-tailed monitor, Ackie monitors are absolutely amazing. Coming from Australia, mostly in the northwestern standpoint, these guys are absolutely fantastic for one reason only. That reason is going to be the size. Otherwise known as the Happy Meal monitor lizards, if you ask me. I don't know if anyone else uses that phrasing, but I go ahead, I'm gonna try to coin that term. These guys are awesome because you get all the intelligence of the monitor lizard, the fascination, the wondering about you, the almost self-awareness that these animals have versus other reptiles and lizards. However, you don't get it in this 6, 7, 8, 11-foot package. You get them in like a 2-foot. They're a little bit smaller than bearded dragons, so you get an animal that can fit in the size of your palm with all the intelligence of one of the smartest lizards in the world. Size does play a big matter. I mean, it contributes to so many different things. Smaller enclosure size, lesser food to feed. You're gonna feed mostly an insect-based diet instead of a more whole prey to meat-based diet, which is gonna drive up that food bill for you. Another thing about it is the available captive bred availability. Let's say availability twice, Dakota, that's okay. These animals coming in Australia, I believe that there really are no imports coming in. I'd be really surprised if Australia was allowing just Ackie monitors and literally not anything else. And what that means for you guys is the captive bred availability is pretty much the sole availability for these animals. Whether you're looking on Morph Market, Fauna, your local Facebook group, which you shouldn't be doing because Facebook doesn't allow that. One thing's for sure is you're not gonna have to worry about if this animal is a captive bred species or an imported wild-caught species. You don't have to deal with the parasite loads, taking the animal out of the wild if you have some sort of moral standpoint against that, and just a little bit of the difficulty with taming down. Imported animals with tameability becomes a little bit more harder when it comes to captive bred, stuff that was born in captivity and was born next to humans. Hey, maybe you're thinking to yourself, well, Dakota, I'm not really into the super small monitors. I want something that has a little bit of size to it, but I'm not ready to make that mark into the giant lizard section. If that's the case for you, we have a bigger and still friendly option. That is going to bring us to number 4, the Cape-banded white-throated monitor. The white-throated monitor, a South African species of monitor that is absolutely fantastic and one of those excellent substitutions if you're looking for something that looks just like a black-throated monitor but doesn't get that black throat size, because let's be honest, that is a very big lizard. Think of the white-throat monitor as the black-throat monitor's little cousin. While black-throats can grow up to 7 feet in length, white-throats can only get a max potential of 6 feet. However, while that doesn't seem much of a size difference, you can really see the vast majority are going to be anywhere around that 3.5 to 4, maybe 5 feet. You're definitely going to find these guys a lot more in the smaller range than you are going to find them close to that 6-foot area. To their size, you can compare them pretty much to the tegu lizard. Around that size, some will get a little bit bigger, some will stay a little bit smaller, but roughly in that general big lizard area. An impressive sized lizard, but not something that is going to break the bank or need, well, something like this, an entire room to be able to house. It can be housed in a slightly smaller enclosure, comparatively speaking to some of these larger species, but it's still an animal that you can bring out and people be like, wow, look at that big lizard. I mean, if that's like your thing, I don't know. And of course, just like the Ackie Monitor, you're going to see a lot of captive bred availability. I'm not 100% sure if importation is still okay with these guys. However, these guys are really being readily available captive bred. So you can find these guys on the market quite frequently for CB availability, which is absolutely awesome because again, at the end of the day, you really don't want to work with an imported pet. I mean, if you can avoid it. If you want to work with the species, get the species if there's no captive bred availability. But, you know, CB all the way, you're going to have a much easier time. But alright, maybe you guys are looking for a bigger animal, but you don't want the bulldog monitor lizard. The big, thick unit of an animal that's terrestrial and kind of just does that. It's just a big animal. Maybe you're looking for something that has a good size, but has some climbability, is arboreal, is a little bit more tropical, has a little bit better coloration. If that's the case for you, that is going to bring us to our next topic at hand, and that is going to be number 3, the Quince Monitor. Quince Monitor is one of my absolute favorite species of monitor to keep, and there are 2 big reasons for that. Number 1, the coloration. My god, are these animals beautiful. Coming in at these high yellows and black contrasted patterns, they're like the bumblebee monitors. It's absolutely fantastic. Even getting those colors exacerbated from doing the high yellows. Now when that animal though just looks a little bit high yellow but still has some blacks, that animal is almost going to turn into a completely patternless yellow animal when it grows up. It is so cool. It is fantastic, man. There's just something about a really yellow monitor lizard that just, it does it for me. It's absolutely amazing. The other thing is going to be the temperament of the animal. Now, although these guys are majority imported, if not all imported or long-term captive, I don't think, maybe there's like 1 or 2 people captive breeding these guys. However, the vast majority are going to be imported animals, which definitely does have its downsides. However, even as an imported animal, a Quince Monitor bite is extremely rare, not where. Come on, Dakota. An absolutely fantastic deposition to them. They are more likely to run away and poop on you than they are to bite. In all my years of owning the multiple Quince Monitors that I do own, I think I've been bitten 1 time. And it was a food bite. It wasn't a defensive bite. I've never actually had a defensive bite where I hold the animal or try to grab it and it tries to latch on and bite me. 90% of the time, it's definitely gonna poop on me and try to run away and its claws kind of dig into my hands. But if you're afraid of a reptile biting you, that's really going to be avoided if you're talking about a Quince Monitor. But alright, coming down on this list, we only have a couple more animals to talk about. Now, this is going to be a little bit an oddball, but if you give me a chance to explain, I can show you why this does make such a good pet. And that's going to bring us to number 2, the Argus Monitor. You know what you guys are thinking? Dakota, the Argus Monitor? The huffy, hissy, tail-whipping death machine that is like the Tasmanian devil? Oh yeah, please explain to me why the Argus Monitor is such a good bet. Well, if you give me a second, I actually will explain it. Now this is going to be another Australian species of monitor, although some can also be found on New Guinea, and it's going to be what I like to refer to as your mid-size monitor, coming in at a size of somewhere around the low side being 3.5 feet to the high side being 5 foot in length. These animals being sexually dimorphic, meaning that you can tell what the animal is based on just looking at it. The males are going to be a lot bigger, somewhere around that 4 to 5 foot area, where the females are going to stay a little bit on the smaller end, getting around that 3.5 foot. So you know you have a male if it's big, chonky, and buff, because my god, do these look buff lizards. A pit bull looking boys. These guys are as yoked as it gets. They're a jacked animal. I mean, I swear to god, these things are beefcakes, and something I absolutely love about them, the muscularity, they're big muscle boys. Not only that, they're going to be an athletic species of monitor. This isn't going to be like your standard white throat or black throat that kind of just lays there, gets a little bit lazy, usually gets a couple of the extra pounds because it doesn't do much. No, these lizards are always on the move, figuring stuff out, moving stuff, burrowing, digging, hunting. It's going to be an animal that's going to require a big space because it's going to use that space because it likes to run around. As someone who is also jacked and yoked, I completely understand where he's coming from when needing that exercise to stay in this top physique. Jesus Christ. Hey, that could just be my personal experience in that individual animal. I'm not out here saying no Argus Monitor is ever going to bite, but from my experience with these animals, it's exactly opposite of what people say. Now, is it going to take a little bit longer to tame down? Absolutely. They're not the friendliest of animals, but once they do tame down, it's an absolutely amazing species to keep, man. An impressive 5 foot jacked animal, and it just comes up to you. It lets you scratch it under its chin, it comes up, it climbs on top of you, it's totally chill. I think that's really cool, and I think it's a little bit better. I feel like it's a little bit more of a rewarding experience when you're working with something like that, and taking something that's a little bit more of a challenge. It creates this little bit of an ego boost, a little bit more of a reward if you have an animal that really tames down super easy, and yeah, you tamed it down, but everyone's tamed it down. Not everyone has a tamed Argus, but we have a tamed Argus here, and at the end of the day, I think that is pretty cool. Hey folks, moving down to the last animal on this list, I think it's pretty obvious to say it is everyone's goal reptile. This is the lizard everyone wants to own when they're thinking about monitor lizards, so let's get into it, and that is going to be number 1, the Asian water monitor. The Asian water monitor, the pinnacle of monitor lizard keeping. Everyone who thinks of a monitor lizard is going to think of the Asian water monitor and how much it is their goal to finally obtain one and keep one as a pet. And at the larger size of monitor lizards, this is going to get to a pretty big size. Animals getting somewhere around the 4.5 feet on the low end and up to 7 feet on the large end. Now, 7-foot lizard, if you think about it, I'm about 5'11", I know, just under the 6-foot mark, what a bummer. But this animal will then be about a foot taller than me when it becomes full length. That is going to be a very big animal. However, all of this is trumped by the personality of the Asian water monitor lizard, which is absolutely fantastic. Pair that with the fact that they seem to be one of the best generationally bred animals. You're getting animals that are going to be 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th generationally bred, which means they're going to be able to be habitualized pretty much right out of the egg. These guys are amazing. As long as you're working with them and doing right by them, you know, not just trying to force grabbing it. I mean, if you're doing that, of course, the animal's not going to be good. But actually taking the proper stance to understand monitor lizard body language and taking the time to actually tame these things out, it's going to be a very easy process, and you're going to have a very friendly lizard, comparatively speaking, even to the other ones we talked about a little bit earlier. That's when it comes to tameability, in my opinion. They're absolutely fantastic, which is why they are the pinnacle of a lot of these large creators. We've got Kevin McCurley over at Nerd, Brian Barczyk with his monitor lizard, we've got Kemp Kennan with his Asian water monitor. A bunch of people own the Asian water monitor simply because they are a big, impressive size and they have a wonderful temperament. It's an amazing lizard, it's the pinnacle, and there's no understanding, no misunderstanding on why it is that way, but that's the thing. Everyone loves water monitors. I got Argus because, you know, I'm not like all the other boys. I keep monitor lizards that hiss and puff at me 24/7. Does that make me edgy? And there you have it, folks. The top 5 best monitor lizards if you are looking for a pet. What do you guys think about this list? Do you think I got them all 5 out of the park, or are there some that I missed on this list or some that shouldn't be there? Don't all say Argus Monitor at once. So drop me a comment down below, and hey, while you're down there, maybe press that like button. It really helps out the channel. Though we do only have the 1 pair of Ackie Monitors for sale right now, we may potentially have some Argus babies here in 2022. If that's something that interests you, make sure to check us out over on Morph Market in the description below. Or if you want to get on a waiting list and potentially become the first person to get served one of the lizards that I produce, make sure to check us out on Patreon. It's only $1 a month. You have tiers where you can get registered to be on a waiting list of these animals. You have availability for these animals that I produce before I even send them out to the public. It's a cool thing. That's the end of my statement. As always, folks, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to follow us over here at DBCB Exotics. I will see you next time. These lights are very hot. Until then, goodbye.